a little. I joined this great institution as an undergraduate 55 years ago. So, when Madame was referring to 50, I should add 55 years ago. I came as a student seeking admission into the first year BA Honours class. And let me start with a candid confession. I did not have the academic qualifications which would have secured immediate entry. These days, I believe all of you come here with 100% marks. Mine were well short of that. Secondly, it was a great institution even then, and it is an even greater institution today for a variety of reasons. I think we've had many opportunities to address the question, what makes a great institution? You could say great faculty, teachers, bright students, a combination of the two, but there is also something called tradition. There is also something called history. And I think the history of this great institution is very much linked with the history of India, at least in its later modern independence era phase. I don't know who told you that I was going to speak on the Middle East war and the global impact and Europe, Middle East. I don't know, but if you want, I can speak on that. But I would rather say a few words on my own. I can speak on that. Then I want to open this up into an interactive session. Because I come here as much to hear from you and hear your views. And I think the freedom of the House is a rarity as far as I'm aware. At least in my time, we didn't give the freedom of the House too easily to people. So I am grateful to the principal, to the Honorable Prime Minister, to all the others who have, and the Leader of Opposition, who thought it appropriate for me to be invited. I'm sorry, let me again go back into past history. When I came to this university, I remember seeking admission. That was 55 years ago. Delhi's population then must have been what, Rasal? 35 lakhs. Today, when the latest census comes, I think Delhi's population will be close to between 2.5 and 3 crores. And I had a taste of that this morning when my flight was delayed coming in from Varanasi. And I took 4 times the amount of time getting from the airport here, so I start with a note of apology. But there is one thing that we don't need to be apologetic about, and that's where I want to congratulate you. You were born in a country which was always destined for greatness. And most of you, I suspect you're what, 18 years old on an average? The Amrit Kal, or where India will be in 2047 as a Viksit Desh, as the Honorable Prime Minister wills, that is a period that belongs to you. That is a period whose destiny you will shape. But let me say that India's greatness will not only come because what you will do, but India has always had a greatness. And I just want to read out a few quotations and then make 1 or 2 points and open this up for an interactive session. There was a man called Samuel Langhorne Clemens. He was born in Florida, Missouri in the United States on 30th November 1835. He was popularly known by the pen name of Mark Twain. He traveled at the age of 60 to India and also to what was then known as Ceylon, which is today called Sri Lanka. Some excerpts from his diary are, in religion, all other countries are paupers. India is the only millionaire. India is the cradle of the human race, the birthplace of human speech, the mother of history, the grandmother of legend, and the great-grandmother of tradition. Our most valuable and most instructive materials in the history of man are treasured in India only. This is an American writing somewhere, sometimes in the 19th century. He had this to say about India. Then he also goes on to say, so far as I am able to judge, nothing has been left undone, either by man or nature, to make India the most extraordinary country that the sun visits on his rounds. Nothing seems to have been forgotten, nothing overlooked. He was not the only one. There was another person called Roma Rolla. He was a French scholar, and he said, if there is one place in the face of earth where all dreams of living men have found a home, from the very earliest days when man began the dream of existence, it is India. And then I'm just going to conclude with two more quotes. Albert Einstein, he says, we owe a lot to the Indians who taught us how to count, without which no worthwhile scientific discovery could have been made. And finally, Swami Vivekananda, he said, India for thousands of years peacefully existed. Here activity prevailed even when Greece did not exist. Even earlier, when history had no record and tradition dares not peer into the gloom of the intense past, even from then until now, ideas after ideas have marched out from here. But every word has been spoken with a blessing behind it and peace before it. We, of all nations of the world, have never been a conquering race, and that blessing is on our head, and therefore we live. Many of us of my generation, when I came to the university in 1968, we did not have the confidence that you guys have. We were not sure of our economic fundamentals. You know, as a student of history, we were told that the golden era of India was in the 5th and 6th century when the Gupta period was done. But something that people don't know, in the year 1700, India's GDP, according to a Cambridge historian, Angus Maddison, was something around 25% of global GDP. But 190 साल के हुकूमत के बाद गिरती 1947 में it came down to a mere 1%. When Mr. Modi assumed responsibility in Delhi, we were the 10th largest economy in the world. Today, we are the 5th largest economy in the world. And let me also tell you, and this is I read a few statistics the other day, we are already a $4 trillion economy. $4 trillion economy means that the two economies ahead of us, Germany and Japan, only have a 4.1 and a 4.3 trillion dollar economy, which means that in a few months or maximum a year, if we are growing at 6.5% and they are not growing or growing only at 0.9%, we will be amongst the 3 largest economies in the world. And that is a world you have come in. When I finished my education, and like all lower middle class students, I was insecure about a job. What were the job opportunities available to my generation? You could either join, if you did very well academically, you could teach, go into research. There were 2 or 3 banks which used to recruit, or 1 or 2 private sector companies. Today the world is open for you. Today when you come into the market, you have all manner of opportunities, even the professions which were, you can be an entrepreneur. Today you can become, thanks to the technology that you have access to, you can also become a job provider rather than a job seeker. So the world has changed. Where are we going? I think by 2047 and much before that, we will be the world's either second largest economy or very much even further. There was a report I read by Ernst & Young which says by about 2040, I think we would be a $26 trillion economy. $26 trillion economy. What were we in 1968 when I joined the university? I asked my young colleague, researcher, to do something. We found it very difficult to correlate. Maximum $50 billion economy. Today you're a $4 trillion economy. So you know what the difference between a billion and a trillion is. So clearly, we are expanding and we are doing well. Now, every generation that molds, it's not an entire generation that molds the narrative, it's some people from that generation that mold the narrative. They have concerns. Today, one of the biggest concerns we've had is that there were parts of India which were growing phenomenally well, but there are other parts where the fruits of economic development did not reach. Therefore, even before the United Nations was establishing the Sustainable Development Goals or the Agenda 2030, Modi ji had already done that. When he assumed power in 2014 May, he had already announced his central schemes, and all of those essentially revolve around taking the fruits of development to the most vulnerable sections of society. Let me give you one or two examples. During the pandemic, we had to face many obstacles, but one of the most vulnerable sections of our society were those who ply their business, or whom we refer to as ready patri wale, the street vendors, because they borrow money at very exorbitant rates, 18% and more, ply their daily wear, and then they move on to buy the next day's this thing, and they had very little margin. But during the economic lockdown, their entire activity was at a standstill. And what happened? Modi ji introduced the Swanidhi scheme, which is a scheme of micro finance, inclusion, and to turn them into micro entrepreneurs. They were given loans of 10,000 rupees, virtually collateral free. If they returned it in time, they would get a second loan of 20,000 rupees. If they returned that, they would get a third loan of 50,000 rupees. And many of them not only survived, but they did exceptionally well. Today, that scheme has already rolled out 53 lakhs beneficiaries, and over 9,200 crores has been given to them by way of microfinance. Another vulnerable section were our mothers and sisters, especially from the below poverty line, economically weaker section. And Modi ji rolled out the Ujjwala scheme, which is to give a cooktop and a free gas cylinder to the poorest of the poor. And today we have already 9 crore 60 lakhs gas cylinders under Ujjwala already with people, and another 75 lakhs are again being rolled out in addition. So these are just examples. If I give you my urban ministry, 1,57,000 crores was the total spend in the 10 years between 2004 and 14. Today, the Modi ji scheme started sometimes in June 2015. In 8 years plus, that spend of 1,57,000 crores has been multiplied many times over. It's nearly 18, 19 lakh crores, more than 12 times the amount earlier. And you see the difference. Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, our urban metro system. I don't know how many of you travel by metro, but I suspect quite a few of you. In a year or so's time, India will have the second largest metro system in the world. It'll be bigger than China, bigger than Japan. The United States is at 1,560 kilometers. We are at about 900 kilometers metro, but we have another 1,000 kilometers still under construction. And that will make us go past the United States. We'll be the second largest metro system in the world, only next to China, which is a much larger. But the US, they're already saturated. I don't see more metro lines being built. So I have just given you a flavor of what the country is doing. And I want to congratulate you guys, because you are that beneficiary. And when you come into the market and as you develop between now and 2040, not very far off, we're already in 2023 end. So 2025, another 16, 17 years, and you will be in the decision-making position. So my congratulations to you. My advice to you is make the most of the opportunities. This kind of environment to study is very difficult to find in the rest of the country. This college and Delhi University draws the best from everywhere, but this is an opportunity. Because let me assure you, I joined 55 years ago. I graduated 50 years ago. I taught for a year in the college next door or across the road. And I can tell you, education is a continuing process. You never stop educating yourself. I educate myself every morning and it's a continuing process. So you will look back on your years in college as exceptionally. You may have personal experiences, good or bad. I think most of you will have good experiences, but you will reflect on this time as a great opportunity. So I want to thank you very much for giving me the time, and I want to stop here and I will take some questions from you. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your insightful inputs. I'm sure the audience must be having some questions to the Minister. Whosoever wishes to raise a question, please raise your hand. The volunteers will come to you with a mic. And please do introduce yourselves.
Thank you very much. Somebody will bring the mic around. Yeah. And don't hesitate to ask me any questions. I have no... Bet, yeah.
Thank you so much, sir, for your insightful words. Sir, my name is Devansh Jain from Sociology Department, first year itself. And sir, the question is related to the discussion topic today itself. It goes like, sir, what are the likely impact of the Russia-Ukraine war in the Indo-Pacific? And sir, would that be of help to the Asian balance of power that we see in the contemporary time?
Well, thank you very much. It's a very broad question. Let me make 2 or 3 general points. A war anywhere in the world has an impact on the geopolitical situation. In the case of the Russia-Ukraine war, there are some specific issues. Those relate to the political history. I'm not going to go into that. A Minsk agreement was signed, and according to that Minsk agreement, there were some terms of agreement. It is one country's view that the Minsk agreement was not followed, because that country believes that the encirclement of Russia continued, NATO kept expanding its borders. You don't have to be, to take a position on that. And then the use of force was resorted to. And on that again, I have a book on the use of force from the outside, Perilous Interventions. But one major impact of the Russia-Ukraine war was on the energy sector. Because Russia is a major producer of energy. If I remember correctly, the Russian production then was about 12, 13 million barrels in a day. Some of the other producers in the Middle East like Saudi Arabia, UAE, etc. Now, the issue was if Russia was again as part of the military operation there, what would happen to Russian oil? There was some talk about sanctioning Russia. That kind of oil would go off the market. Already Iranian oil was under sanction. Iran is under sanction as a country. There were problems in Venezuela. There was an issue there. But the West imposed a price cap. In my view, that price cap was also done very selectively. Some of the energy coming from a pipeline from Russia to Hungary was exempt. Some of it going to China was exempt. And more than that, some of the energy sold from the Russian Far East to Japan was also exempt. So we felt that the thing was operated mainly against the interest of countries like India, but we didn't get overawed by that. Our purchases of crude oil from Russia, which were at 0.2% of the, how do you put it, overall purchases, went up from 0.2%, they went up now, we are buying about, what, 30% from Russia? By the way, India consumes 5 million barrels of oil in a day, but the Indian economy is growing very fast, 6.5%. Our rate of growth in oil consumption or energy consumption is 3 times the global average. So I've just given you an example on the this thing, but an impact, a war can also have an impact on other things. I'm not going to go into very much details on what happened in Ukraine, etc., but I've given you an answer based on the oil situation.
Thank you, sir.
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद सर. आपके मुख से भारत की गौरव गाथा सुनकर हृदय अत्यंत प्रसन्न हो गया। मेरा नाम अनंत तिवारी है, मैं सोशियोलॉजी डिपार्टमेंट प्रथम वर्ष का छात्र हूँ। सर, जहाँ तक कि पिछला सवाल था और आपका उत्तर था, मैं यहीं से सर अपना सवाल प्रारंभ करना चाहूँगा कि जो युद्ध हुआ अभी हमने देखा रूस और यूक्रेन के बीच, उसमें भारत ने तेल आयात को एक अवसर के रूप में देखा। और इसी से रिलेटेड अगर हम आगे की बात करें तो भारत कूटनीतिक परिप्रेक्ष्य में कहाँ तक सक्षम रहा है इन अवसरों को लेकर, ये मेरा सवाल है सर। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
तिवारी जी, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद, आपने जो सवाल पूछा और आपका एक तरीके से फॉलो अप क्वेश्चन है। पहली बात तो मैंने सिर्फ तेल का कच्चे तेल का सिर्फ उदाहरण दिया। बैठिए, कच्चे तेल का मैंने उदाहरण दिया है। जहां तक स्ट्रेटेजिक सवाल हैं, जहां तक ग्लोबल पीस के सवाल हैं, माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी ने उस समय भी कहा था, दिस इज अ टाइम फॉर पीस, नॉट फॉर वॉर, दिस इज नॉट अ टाइम फॉर वॉर। और वो जो माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी की लाइन है, वो ज्यादातर विश्व भर में, संयुक्त राष्ट्र में, और जब हमने G20 की अध्यक्षता की है माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी ने, तो ये वहां पे लाइन भी एक्सेप्ट हो गई है कि एक डीपली डिवाइडेड वर्ल्ड में माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी और भारत, वी वर एबल टू प्ले द रोल ऑफ ए यूनिफायर इन अ डीपली डिवाइडेड वर्ल्ड। सो हर एक किस्म से देखिए, अगर दो देशों के बीच में युद्ध होता है, उसको आप, वो तो उसके कारण अपने आप होते हैं, कुछ अंतर्देशीय कारण होते हैं, कुछ अंतर्राष्ट्रीय कारण होते हैं, जो भी कारण होते हैं उसको तो आप रोक नहीं पाएंगे। दुनिया भर में कई युद्ध हो रहा है। अभी हमास जो एक आतंकवादी टेररिस्ट ग्रुप है, उसने इजराइल पर हमला किया, पर हमने जो स्टैंड लिया, हमारा स्टैंड बिल्कुल कंसिस्टेंट है। हम टेररिज्म के खिलाफ है, क्योंकि टेररिस्ट ने जहां से भी आए हमारे यहाँ तबाही मचाई। और उसके अलावा हमारी जो सोल्यूशन है कि एक 2 स्टेट सोल्यूशन होनी चाहिए, जिसमें पैलेस्टीनियन स्टेट भी बननी चाहिए और इजराइल को भी हक है बनने का। आप किसी के खिलाफ ऐसा टेररिस्ट एक्शन नहीं ले सकते हैं, बिकॉज द टेररिस्ट टेक्स अवे द मोस्ट फंडामेंटल राइट ऑफ ऑल, द राइट टू लाइफ। वैसे बोल लीजिए, आपकी आवाज पहुंच जाएगी यहां तक। अरे वो भाई साहब, आप पूछिए सवाल।
A very good afternoon to you, sir. This is Harsh. I'm a second year student here at BA program. Sir, do you really think that strategic autonomy at the time of NAM and at the time of today has something a difference? And if it is so, then how it is proving to be beneficial today, differing from the time of NAM?
देखिए, दो चीजें हैं। पहले तो आपने नैम के मतलब है, बाकी जो आपके विद्यार्थी साथी हैं, नैम आप रेफर करें नॉन अलाइंड मूवमेंट को। तो ऐसा था कि नॉन अलाइंड मूवमेंट के भारत एक फाउंडिंग मेंबर है, पर हम में से कई लोगों को लगा नॉन अलाइंड मूवमेंट की जो सक्सेस थी कि हम लोग सही तरीके से नॉन अलाइंड नहीं थे। कुछ लोग कहते थे कि हम नॉन अलाइंड नहीं है, हम सही माने में वी आर अ प्रॉक्सी फॉर वन ऑफ द ब्लॉक्स। और जो नॉन अलाइंड मूवमेंट में रेजोल्यूशन भी पास की जाती हैं, बाय द वे मैं एक क्लैरिफिकेशन दे दूं, ये मैं अपने पर्सनल कैपेसिटी में बोल रहा हूं, क्योंकि ये मेरे जो मंत्रिमंडल में जिन मंत्रालयों के साथ मैं जुड़ा हूं, उनका इन इशू से लेना देना नहीं है, बट क्योंकि मैं 39 ईयर्स फॉरेन सर्विस में रहा हूं, ये मेरी पर्सनल व्यू है। तो उस समय जो स्ट्रेटेजिक ऑटोनॉमी की बात की जाती थी, कोई हमको सीरियसली लेता नहीं था। पर 2014 के बाद हमने स्ट्रेटेजिक ऑटोनॉमी जो कॉन्सेप्ट है, उसको एक नई परिभाषा दी, उसको नया मीनिंग दिया। और अभी मोदी जी खुद दुनिया के, चाहे वो पोटस हो, अमेरिका के राष्ट्रपति, चाहे वो फ्रांस के हों, चाहे वो जर्मनी के हों, चाहे किसी भी देश के लीडर हों, उनसे डायरेक्टली बात करते हैं, क्योंकि आज वी आर कंसिडर्ड अ लीडिंग इमर्जिंग इकोनॉमी, वी आर अ वॉइस फॉर रीजन, वी आर ऑल्सो अ कंट्री विच इज कंट्रीब्यूटिंग टू ग्लोबल पीस एंड वी आर डूइंग हैवी लिफ्टिंग। कहीं पे भी अगर कोई नेचुरल कैलामिटी हो जाए तो वहां पे रेस्क्यू एंड रिलीफ एफर्ट हमारे यहाँ से जाता है। टर्की में एक अर्थक्वेक हुआ, मुझे याद है माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी बंगलुरु में थे, वहीं से उन्होंने फोन की, वी वर लिविंग heavy lifting relief supplies. So this is a different India. Today it's a very different India from which uses its strategic choices. You can call it autonomy. Autonomy का क्या मतलब है कि आपके जो विदेश और security policy, it should not be dictated by someone else. It's a very different country, and I think you are getting a lot of appreciation for that on the global stage.
Oh, very good afternoon, sir. My name is Surpratap Singh, third year student from PSC department. Sir,
Chemistry. Which department?
Physical Science Chemistry department, sir. Sir, my question is regarding the impact of Israel-Palestine conflict on the IMEC corridor, that is India Middle East Economic Corridor. So, sir, do you think our eastern neighbor has wantedly caused this conflict just to stop the IMEC corridor project because it is counter to one of the greatest infrastructure project by them?
It's a brilliant question. I think the question, let me explain it to those of you who may not have understood the motivation behind it. One particular country, uska naam aap jante hain, China, had introduced what is called the Belt and Road Initiative. तो उन्होंने क्या किया कि उन्होंने कैपिटल इन्वेस्टमेंट्स की कई देशों में, खास करके भारत के आसपास के देशों में भी, श्रीलंका में उन्होंने किया। श्रीलंका जो उन्होंने कर्जा लिया था, इन्वेस्टमेंट हुई थी, श्रीलंका उसको दे नहीं पाया, सो दे हैड टू इनफैक्ट pawn their land, they had to hand over their land in response. तो इसके कई कारण, आई वोंट गो इनटू द डायनामिक्स ऑफ द बेल्ट एंड रोड. अब मैं ये भी नहीं कह सकता कि ये जो IMET कॉरिडोर है, दिस इज इन डायरेक्ट कॉन्फ्लिक्ट फॉर दैट, बट इट्स अ ब्रिलियंट इनिशिएटिव जो अभी G20 में हुआ था. आपकी चिंता या आपके प्रश्न में ये चिंता है कि क्या ये जो इजराइल और हमास की लड़ाई है, इसके कारण ये रुक तो जाएगा नहीं. I am one of those who believe that a good idea can never be stopped. तो अगर इजराइल और अभी जो युद्ध हो रहा है मिडल ईस्ट में, मुझे लगता है कि सेनर वॉइस विल प्रिवेल एंड दिस IMET कॉरिडोर विल गो हेड. थोड़ी सी उसमें देरी हो सकती है इसके कारण, बट आई डोंट थिंक द कॉरिडोर इनिशिएटिव विल गेट डीरेल्ड. जी मैं माइक ले रहे भैया मुझको. हाँ, मेरी उम्र पे हियरिंग इज आल्सो लिटिल.
तो सर मेरा नाम वैभव और मैं बीए प्रोग्राम फर्स्ट ईयर का स्टूडेंट हूँ. तो सर नाम की भी अभी यहाँ बात हुई और आईमैक की भी बात हुई. तो सर जैसे आईमैक के अंदर मिडिल ईस्ट की भी कंट्रीज है, यूरोप की भी कंट्रीज है और इंडिया भी है. तो सर इसके अंदर हम लोग एग्जिस्टिंग इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर भी यूज करने वाले हैं और नए इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर भी बनाने वाले हैं, जैसे कि बात हुई थी G20 के टाइम पर. तो सर ये कॉन्फ्लिक्टिंग नेशंस भी काफी सारे हैं मिडिल ईस्ट में जो इसका एक पार्ट है. तो सर उन देशों को साथ में लेकर आना और यूरोप को साथ में लेकर आना, ये सर कैसे संभव हो पाएगा और सर इंडिया का इसमें क्या रोल प्ले होगा?
देखिए ऐसा है, अगर आप इसका जो नक्शा है देखें, ये वेस्ट इंडिया से, हमारे वेस्टर्न पार्ट से लेके, सी रूट से लेके जाके अगर मिडिल ईस्ट में जाएगा, मिडिल ईस्ट में सऊदी अरेबिया, वहाँ पे जाके आगे से जाके एंड बोथ पार्टली बाय लैंड पार्टली बाय सी पहुँचेगा ये यूरोप. ठीक है, तो इसमें कोई बहुत बड़ा आपको इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चरल डेवलपमेंट करने की जरूरत नहीं है, बिकॉज यू ऑलरेडी हैव द लैंड, whether you construct railways or you construct roads there, you have the sea route where already commerce is taking place. It's a brilliant idea, which its beauty lies in the fact that it is doable. And the idea is that it will become an instrument, a vehicle for the transportation of goods and services. Unlike the other one, which is to set up this big white elephant project. वो white elephant project कुछ करेगा जो आप वहाँ पे जाके investment करेगा, he wants a return on it also ना. अब वो return नहीं, वो तो बैठ गए projects. पाकिस्तान में भी जो किए, श्रीलंका में भी किए, वहाँ पे समस्या होनी शुरू हो गई.
Good afternoon, sir. My name is Anurag Srivastav and I belong from Sonbhat, the district where you are minister in charge. So my question to you is, India has been seen as a fence sitting by some European observers in the context of Russia-Ukraine war. Sir, how do you think that we can better our image given the fact that India and EU is moving fastly towards a free trade agreement?
भाई साहब ऐसा है कि एक तो जब यूरोप से कोई बात निकलती है ना, आप उनको बताइए कि आप दुनिया को यूरोसेंट्रिक व्यू से देखना बंद करो। बहुत होगी कॉलोनियलिज्म 190 साल की यहाँ पे, बाकी जगह भी हो गई। तो यूरोप कौन होता है हमें बताने के लिए? मैं उस समय डेवोस में था, मुझे याद है, और वहाँ पे भी पहले दिन ये हुई। पर मैं तो पोलाइट हूँ नॉर्मली, मैं सख्त चीज़ें भी पोलाइटली कह जाता हूँ। किसी ने बोला कि भाई आपको गलतफहमी है कि यूरोप के बगैर कोई दुनिया नहीं है। अरे भाई, अफ्रीका, लैटिन अमेरिका, यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स, एशिया, तो ये यूरोप हम फेंस सिटर कहाँ से हैं? हम तो अपने इंटरेस्ट में हैं। मोदी जी इज रिस्पॉन्सिबल टू द इंडियन सिटीजन। यूरोप में भी तो उन्होंने क्या किया? उन्होंने ऑयल को वेपनाइज किया, आइडियोलॉजिकली वेपनाइज किया। आज देख लो उन देशों की क्या हालत है और हमारी क्या हालत क्या है। हम 6.5% पे ग्रो कर रहे हैं, वो या रिसेशन में है, हाफ ऑफ देम आर इन रिसेशन, द अदर हाफ आर फ्लर्टिंग विद रिसेशन। सो मैं आपके जो आपने कोट किया, गुड टू प्रोवोक मी, पर हमको यूरोप को सीरियसली इस बात में नहीं लेते। देयर आर फ्रेंड्स, वी हैव गॉट फ्रेंड्स विद ब्रिटेन, फ्रांस, जर्मनी, बट दे आर नोबडी टू प्रीच टू अस।
नमस्कार सर, मेरा नाम कुमार अभिषेक है। एक तरफ सर भारत की अवधारणा हमेशा वसुदेव कुटुंबकम की रही है, तो इस पक्ष में हम देखते हैं कि भारत यूरोप की युद्धों से मध्यस्थता की स्थिति अपनाता है। तो वहीं हम अगर वर्तमान समय में भारत को अगर विश्व गुरु के रूप में, एक विशेष छवि के रूप में जब हम उभरते हुए देख रहे हैं, तो क्या आपको लगता है कि इस छवि को और सशक्त बनाने की दिशा में भारत को तटस्थ रहने के बजाय मिडिल ईस्ट में सक्रिय भूमिका निभानी चाहिए?
देखिए, मैं आपके बहुत बढ़िया तरीके से आपने अपने प्रश्न को फ्रेम किया, पर इसको मैं सिंप्लीफाई करता हूं। मिडिल पास्ट, मध्यस्थता, देखिए, अगर इजराइल और हमास ने इजराइल पे आक्रमण किया, उसमें हम तो अपने यहां संयुक्त राष्ट्र में हम यही दोनों को एडवाइस दे सकते हैं। कौन हु कैन प्ले पीस मेकर, ये बड़ी कॉम्प्लिकेटेड गेम है, और आपको हर एक चीज ओपनली नहीं करनी है, आपको बिहाइंड द सीन्स भी करनी है। हर एक कंट्री के पास लेवरेज नहीं होती, कुछ कंट्रीज के पास लेवरेज होती है। भारत का रोल बड़ा कंस्ट्रक्टिव रोल रहा है, आज उससे भी ज्यादा है। और आपने जो कोट किया, द वर्ल्ड इज वन फैमिली, बिल्कुल वही उसी में हम कर रहे हैं। जैसे मैंने अभी कहा 2-4 प्रश्न पहले कि जब भारत ने G20 की अध्यक्षता की, सब लोग कहते थे इसमें रूस नहीं मानेगा, इसमें चीन नहीं मानेगा, इसमें वो नहीं मानेगा। मैंने हमेशा कहा था, क्योंकि मोदी जी ने एक बहुत कंस्ट्रक्टिव लाइन ली है। G20 वॉज नॉट जस्ट कि एक कैपिटल सिटी में मीटिंग होगी है, यहां से 200 से अधिक मीटिंग्स हुई है 50 अलग अलग शहरों में। और वो जो आप पढ़ेंगे उसको, हर एक सेक्शन जो है दैट प्रोवाइड्स गाइडलाइंस फॉर दुनिया में क्या करना है। तो लीडरशिप जो है, हमें जो मौका मिला G20 का, वो लीडरशिप हमने बहुत सुंदर तरीके से यूज की है। उस आगे जाके इट हैज टू बी मेंटेन्ड। तो इसमें विश्व गुरु की जो बात करते हैं, दुनिया कहेगी आपको ये नहीं कहना कि हम हैं। हमारे यहाँ कोई जो हमारे जो राजनीति में हमारे जो विरोधी दल हैं, कुछ कभी कभी ऐसी बातें करते हैं, उनको शायद ये समझ नहीं है कि जब देश आगे बढ़ता है, जब प्रगति होती है, जब देश, हमारी जो अर्थव्यवस्था है विश्व भर में 3 बड़ी अर्थव्यवस्था में पहुंच जाएगी, उस समय आपको ये लगेगा कि
I request the members to please remain seated.
तो उससे ये है कि ये प्रोसेस ऑनगोइंग प्रोसेस रहेगा हमेशा। धन्यवाद।
नमस्कार माननीय मंत्री महोदय, मेरा नाम कृष गौतम है। मैं सोशियोलॉजी डिपार्टमेंट का फर्स्ट ईयर से छात्र हूँ। मेरा आपसे यह प्रश्न है कि हमारा यूरोप और मिडल ईस्ट के युद्धों पर तटस्थ रुझान हमारे पड़ोसी देशों के साथ संघर्ष को किस प्रकार प्रभावित करेगा? सर, जैसे कि अभी आपने न्यूट्रल स्टैंड की बात की है कि हमारा यूक्रेन और रूस पे भी न्यूट्रल स्टैंड था, और अभी इजराइल और हमास पे भी न्यूट्रल।
मैंने न्यूट्रल शब्द कभी इस्तेमाल नहीं किया, मैंने कंस्ट्रक्टिव बोला। देखिए, अब जो हुआ है, हमास एक टेररिस्ट ग्रुप है, इन्होंने एक डेमोक्रेसी पे आक्रमण किया है, ठीक है, उसमें हम न्यूट्रल नहीं है। हमने स्ट्रॉन्गेस्ट टर्म्स में उस टेररिज्म को कंडेम किया है। इसी हमने न्यूट्रल कभी नहीं रहे हैं। हमने ये कहा है कि ये बिल्कुल गलत है, हमारे खिलाफ भी टेररिज्म है, हमने इसको कंडेम किया। बट इजराइल का एक्शन जो है हमास के खिलाफ हम सपोर्ट करते हैं, टेररिज्म के खिलाफ, पर उसके बाद ये अगर बन जाए पैलेस्टीन के खिलाफ, पैलेस्टीन में 2 मिलियन लोग हैं, तो आपको उसमें डिस्टिंग्विश करना पड़ेगा। वो हमारी वही व्यू है जो बाकी देशों की है कि हॉस्टेजेस को रिलीज करना चाहिए, पीस करना चाहिए, बट इजराइल को पूरा हक है, उनका अधिकार है कि वो अपने आप को डिफेंड करें, और हम उनके साथ हैं इसमें।
Good afternoon, sir. Ashirwad Kumar this side, a second-year student from Commerce Department. Sir, my question is, what are the ways in which a nation could be motivated to take on pacifist role, sir?
No, I don't understand. Come here. You want to have a more pacifist role?
Yes, sir.
No, believe in the values of Mahatma Gandhi, the father of the nation. Believe in the values of this thing, and that is basically what our value system is. I quoted in those many quotes I gave you Swami Vivekananda's quote also, which is that we have never sought anyone else's territory or a grant. So we are essentially, but pacifism doesn't mean that we take everything lying down. If somebody attacks us, we will be very, very focused and aggressive. As we had terrorism coming from a Western neighbor, we gave them a befitting reply. I'll take one more question. I think there was a lady here. Yes, this lady with a hand up. This is the last question I'll take, yeah.
Good afternoon, sir. Thanks for acknowledging, first of all. And my question was with regards to, all of us are seeing how beautifully India has been balancing its foreign policy regarding the war in the Middle East. But my question is, India also condemns the disproportionate use of Israel against Hamas, against the people of Palestine. So the disproportionate, I hope you're hearing.
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you.
So the disproportionate use of force by Israel against the civilian Palestinians.
I'm not sure, young lady, I can agree with that. If you are getting there and suddenly you are unprovoked attacked, then you have to defend yourself. You can get into an issue of proportionality. You can get into an issue. But India condemned the terrorism.
Absolutely.
Okay. We support Israel's right to carry out countermeasures. But we are a civilized country. We say that that response has to be within the engagements of the rules of war.
Okay. So that is where some questions have been raised regarding the disproportionate use of force, which is also one of the rules in the international rules of war. So in that regard, sir, what do you think? Like, how will India go ahead?
No, please sit down. I'll tell you something. India is beautifully positioned. Look, there are things called mass atrocities. Mass atrocities, in my mind, or rather, I've written a book on it also, or of 3 or 4 kinds. There's genocide. You know, the Jewish people were subjected to genocide. There's no two opinion about that, number one. Then there are what are called crimes against humanity. Then there are war crimes. Look, and that's where the doctrine of responsibility to protect came. What happens is that a certain section of our political society, my liberal friends, I used to have a lot of them when I was in college, okay? I don't know what they're called now, but I'll tell you something. All I can tell you is they mistake one for the other, cause for the effect. There is no question. You have to allow people to live in harmony with each other. And our position, as in the world position, is that you need a 2-state solution. You must have the state of Palestine living in peace, secure in its border, but you must allow Israel also to live. But some of these people are turning around saying, we will not let Israel live, and then we want to. It's not going to work. If you look at the history of that, who was there before this? There was the Ottoman Empire. Who was there before the Ottoman Empire? Who was there? Byzantine Empire before that. So these are all myths produced, and I'm sorry, I should not be saying this, but some of my liberal friends are obfuscating here. We certainly, and I think they need a proper answer. I don't think this is, but listen, guys, I have to conclude. I can tell you the time was not there, but this is one of the most brilliant interactions I've seen from young friends. I want to congratulate you because you asked questions which were very pointed, very focused, and those questions also forced me to step out a little. But let's do this again, maybe in a different format. because I have to run now. My handlers are telling me you're going to be late again. But thank you very much and God bless. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for being with us today. Thank you so much for coming.